Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to discuss the Certificate in Strategic Management. My name is Shawnee Sutton. I am the Enrollment Manager here at Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies. I am joined by John Corso, who is an instructor with the Strategic Management Certificate Program. Today, John and myself will be talking to you about the program. We'll be going over some enrollment, scheduling, some information about our way of conducting classes due to COVID-19. And then at the end of the presentation, we will actually have a Q&A session. So while we're going through the presentation, if any questions come to mind, feel free to type those questions into the question panel. And at the end of the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where I will read off some questions and John and myself will answer them for you. Now, with that, John, I will let you begin. Again, welcome and thank you all.
All right, well, thank you very much, Shawnee, for that introduction. And we're going to talk to you today about the Certificate in Strategic Management and talk to you specifically about why choose the Georgetown Certificate in Strategic Management. There are a lot of certificates that are available for you to engage in at the School of Continuing Studies. They're all wonderful. So the question would be, why choose strategic management? So hopefully I can give you a little bit of insight into how our certificate benefits you as a learner. And then towards the end, as Shawnee already said, we can answer your questions in a Q&A session. Next slide, please. So these are our learning objectives, and they're available on our website that describes the certificate. The first one is understanding strategic planning in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. And so we do look at organizations across industry, across public service, across the nonprofit world. And so we also have a lot of students that come to us from those various sectors. And each has a little bit of its own perspective. And so we want to make sure that we expose students to the differences between those sectors and how strategic planning works in each of those types of organizations. We have a lot of templates and tools that we show you as well that help you put together a strategic plan. So a strategic plan is not something that you just kind of sit down one day and decide you're going to write. You really need a structured approach in order to develop a strategic plan. So that involves various tools and various organized ways of thinking. And so we take you through the process of building a vision, a mission, determining what the core values of your organization are, and then determining what goals and objectives make the most sense in the context of that vision, that place that you want your organization to get to in the future. And then strategies are approaches or activities to actually accomplishing the overarching strategy. We also teach you how strategy is measured and how you make sense of the measurements. And so you are performing in a given direction, but the question is, how do you know that you are moving in the right direction? And so measurement provides you with that means, that tool, in order to understand whether or not you are achieving what you need to achieve to accomplish the organizational strategy. And then you have to be able to communicate all of this to the various stakeholders to your organization, both internally and externally. Internally, certainly everyone that is a member of the organization really needs to understand their role in the strategy and how they contribute to it personally. And then externally, the people that the organization deals with, its customers, its donors, its various oversight stakeholders, such as with a governmental entity. Performance needs to be communicated to these various audiences so that they understand that they're making a good investment by transacting with the organization, by being customers of an organization, by funding an organization, by providing capital, let's say in the private sector, investing in an organization. They want to understand that they're placing their resources and their time and their interest in the right place. And then finally, we want to put all of this in a global and ethical perspective. And so we operate on a world stage, and we also are conscious of doing good and being a force for good within that world stage. And this awareness is even more heightened as we move forward into the future. Next slide. So we divide the strategic management certificate up into 5 days that we have you in the virtual classroom now with COVID-19. And what are the kinds of things that we're going to be doing each day? And day one, we're going to be looking at the foundational material, but also getting you as quickly as possible to engage that material hands-on. More about that in the next slide. And then we're going to move on to talking about how do you put a strategy together, some of the methods and approaches that you need to use to put a strategy together, and then to determine whether or not that strategy is a good strategy. So we call that evaluation. And then in the third day, we take you to looking at implementing the strategy, making the strategy real. Executing it is another term that we use, and that requires good change management. So you not only have to perform all the activities that result in accomplishing your strategy, but you have to get your organization ready for change as well. And that's very important because we're talking about people. Organizations are composed of people, and they work with people, their customers and their stakeholders. And so change involves a change in mindset and behavior. You're trying to get people to do things that maybe they haven't done in the past, and to get comfortable with those. And that includes customers as well, because you're innovating and you're producing new products and services to try and remain competitive. And so you need to get your customers in a comfortable place with your innovation so that they understand that it's for their benefit. And then finally, after having learned both through hands-on exercises and class discussion, also some lecture and various modes of learning, which we'll get to in the next slide,
You have interaction with your instructor. There's never a time where you're not feeling that face to face in that real time experience. Again, this is just sample activities, face-to-face discussions in Zoom, Zoom live chat, group discussion activities. This will be great for your capstone projects when you guys are in your breakouts with groups. You have the ability to share Google Docs. You have be able to survey, polls, um, role playing via Zoom, peer review, peer teaching on Zoom. Um, and you're able to research and report out on Zoom and case study discussions on Zoom. So everything you're still mirroring that real world, I'm sorry, that face-to-face experience that you would have if you were on campus at School of Continuing Studies in the classroom with your instructor. So we have been getting great reviews from students who have taken the flex learning experience. They appreciate that Georgetown has found a way to still have that real face-to-face time with their instructors, but also taking in consideration that the community, our students are safe and at home. And so, it's been a great experience. And I think you guys would really appreciate it and be able to still feel that you're sitting in your classroom when you're at home. John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'd be glad to. We've had that same great experience with strategic management. We did a run of it virtually in April, and it was very successful. It was a lot of it was very enjoyable working with students in that modality. I think the students agreed. The breakout rooms were, as Shawnee said, are a great functionality in Zoom to do group exercises in, and we were able to use that function to have people get that virtual experience and then come back and brief out. And I, as an instructor, am able to go into your breakout rooms and check on you and give you assistance. So again, we don't throw you in the deep end. There's a lot of support that we provide with this technology. And so I think the students appreciated that. And of course, we always appreciate the great students that come to our classes as well. So we all enjoyed the experience, and I'm looking forward to doing that again this summer. And also in the fall, as Shawnee mentioned, are options for you as well.
Thanks, John. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to discuss some of the options for funding that we have available for students if you are not paying for your tuition upfront once you register via credit card. So, just a list of things that we do accept. We accept employer education training budgets and federal agency training funds. They kind of go hand in hand, but it's just a little twist to the two. For non-government agencies, if your employer is actually paying for your tuition, we have a form called intent to pay, where your employer will actually complete and state how much they will pay for your tuition. So whether it's 50% or 100%, they will state that on the form. You all will email that to our student accounts department, and our student accounts department will work to invoice your employer. So what you would do is you actually submit your registration, and at checkout, under payment option, you would select third party. And you would do the same if you're under a government agency. The only difference is the form that you would submit. For your government agency, you would submit a standard form 182, SF 182, and it would state the same information, letting us know how much your agency will pay, whether it's 50, 10%, 50%, or 100%. And our student accounts department will work to invoice your agency for payment. For Georgetown employees, there is a tuition assistance um, benefits that we have. And if you are using TAP benefits, there is an option to select that under your payment options. You will first make sure you need to apply through the TAP benefits office first, and then you will register, because it takes some time for the TAP benefits office to process payment. the tax benefit office have just changed their standards. So before it was 100%, but now it's 90%, and the employee will have to cover the remaining 10%. Go Army Ed, active duty National Guard. We do have a connection with them. You will work with our student accounts department to, get that process through Go Army Ed. In conjunction, we do accept military benefits. We accept the GI Bill only. So we have a certifying official for VA benefits. Her name is Monique Singleton, and you will actually work with her directly in regards to that. So at checkout for military benefits, you will select VA benefits. Our interest-free payment plan is probably our most popular option that students actually take. Our payment plan is where we break the whole complete tuition into 4 equal payments of 25%. So that means at registration, you will select payment plan. It will go to our student accounts department where they will actually split up your payments. Your first payment will be due once you receive the invoice from registration. And then you will have 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days to pay the remainder 25% each month. Private education loans is something that students have the option of taking because our non-credit certificate programs do not qualify for federal funding or scholarships or need-based um, programs. Private education loans is something that students do take advantage of sometimes. The most popular one is Sally Mae. However, we do have a list, excuse me, we do have a list of loan providers that we have worked with in the past. And this is something that probably would not pertain to the strategic management certificate program, but students are allowed to register for courses over a course of time. Our max time is that we give students 2 years to complete a certificate. However, for strategic management, you wouldn't have this option because there's only one course that you will be registering for. For tuition discounts, we offer a few discounts. We have a Georgetown alumni discounts. And let me just say, all of our discounts are 10%. The Georgetown alumni discount is a discount that is given to anyone that's completed a professional certificate program or any other programs at Georgetown University, whether it's a degree program or certificate program, and you will receive a 10% discount. You will let us know that you have completed a program, and we will do our research to find that information, and then you will be awarded the 10% discount. We offer a 10% discount for Ed Assist. That is an organization that works with companies in regards to the company's tuition benefits assistance program. So you will have to work with your company as well as Ed Assist to get a certificate, which is a certificate of approval, and send that over to us, and we will grant you the 10% discount for Ed Assist. We also have an academic scholarship alliance with OPM, which is part of the federal government, where we offer federal government employees a 10% discount. So what you would need to do there is actually send us a copy of your most recent leave and earning statement. You will redact all information, personal information. All we would need is your name, your agency, and the current date because it has to be the most recent leave and earning statement. Um, we have a few other discounts. One is for Boeing employees um, that we offer a 10% discount. So if you're an employee of Boeing, we do offer a discount for you all. Um, I think that really sums up all the discounts that we offer. But however, if you have any questions about any of these options, you can always reach out to us. Our enrollment team is always available to assist you with any questions. If you have questions about any documents that's needed, we're always available to assist you with those questions. And with that, we will go into our Q&A session. I will check to see what questions. I see we have some question marks up. So let's begin. All right. The first question. Hello, thanks for walking us through the presentation questions. The this assumes this assumes in class studying and collaboration. Okay. This assumes in class study and collaboration, right? How are you adjusting COVID-19 limitations? Will some modules be online, mixed mode?
Okay, so I can take that one, Shawnee. And so all our collaborations is really under that flex learning. Um, if you recall the chart that Shawnee showed you, flex versus online. So it's 100% flex, meaning that we're simulating the classroom environment. So it'll be just as if you were in the classroom, except it will be virtual. So everything will be what's also known as, to use a fancy term, synchronous learning, which is really everyone is together as if they were in a classroom. And so that's the approach we use. We do have breakout rooms so that the separate groups are working in the breakout rooms. But that is, again, simulating what we do what we have done for years in the classroom. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you, John. The next question: for the class project and any additional assignments, will students be working within the course day, or is the expectation that we work after hours?
That's a great question. And so because we are professional education, um, we want to limit the work that you do outside of the classroom as much as possible. So really the exercises are performed um, during class hours, the group exercises. The capstone exercise is performed during class hours. So really the only thing that you need to worry about is kind of reading ahead, which we advise students to do that once they register and once we open up the Canvas course, which is a minimum, the Canvas learning management system environment where everything is posted, all the readings, all the slides and that sort of thing, all the required readings, they're posted in Canvas with the exception of some case studies and articles that we ask you to read. Those are sent by separate link, but that's an exception to the rule that everything is posted in Canvas. And so we ask you to review those materials sometime before you come to class the first day. So you do have some advanced reading to do, but other than the advanced reading, so that you can familiarize yourself as much as you can with the subject matter and be able to participate well in class. Beyond the advanced reading, we put everything into the class day. So the actual exercises, the actual capstone, that's going to be performed during the class day. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Thank you. The next question: what prior work experience education is necessary or recommended for this course?
Right, and so every Georgetown professional education certificate does require a bachelor's degree or better. But beyond that, there is no specification. And so that's good, particularly for people that are doing career changes, for people that, in the case of our subject matter, that maybe want to go into entrepreneurship. So sure, we have a lot of people coming from line management or consultants that are trying to learn more about organizational strategy. They might work in functional areas like IT, accounting, human resources. So we get from all walks in that sense, but we also get folks that maybe want to start their own business, and so it behooves them to, learn about strategy, or maybe it's they're working in a conventional organization, but they're kind of dreaming about someday maybe I could be an entrepreneur. So this material would be well suited to them, and so folks are coming from, shall we say, all walks of life in that regard. So short answer is that it's fairly wide open. Who typically comes to our classes or takes an interest, certainly those in more business-oriented disciplines and subjects who are working in organizations in general line management and those sorts of things. But we have had other kinds of students who have benefited just as well from our material, because it really helps you to understand, even if you're, let's say you're a volunteer or you're big into nonprofit work, this stuff is applicable to you, because it tells you how activities can be organized, how they can be planned for maximum effect. So again, kind of a wide range, I think, would be the answer.
Thanks, John. Um, excuse me, during those 5 days, what is the hours for the course? I know it runs from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but I guess being that we're doing flex learning, is there like some times that you take breaks, John? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Oh yes, great question. So we definitely want you to have that break time. Sitting in front of a screen all day is really hard, and so we give you generous breaks. We schedule hard breaks every morning, every afternoon. We give you a generous lunch break of an hour, and then we schedule a little bit more flexibly bio breaks within that structure. And so we make sure that you have time to clear your head, you have time to get a cup of coffee, you have time to take care of whatever you need. A lot of folks are working professionals, and so they need to know that they can at least set aside a few minutes to check their emails and things of that nature. So yeah, we're going to give you that because that promotes better learning, and it's something that we've learned by experience. But it's also something that's particularly important when you're online. And so the short answer again is yes, we do that, and hopefully that helps.
Thanks, John. Our next question, what is the average professional, okay, we talked about that. That was, what is the average professional experience level for students? If you want to just recap, that'll be great.
Right. So what I would do is kind of talk anecdotally. I mean, I don't have the actual data, but I have many years of experience that I'm drawing on. Okay, and so kind of put that caveat on what I'm about to say. But I would say, kind of going through my mind and picturing all the faces and the names and the walks of life that people have come from, kind of in the middle. Okay, so people that are mid-career, um, but some are late career, some are early career, and again, some are shifting careers. Some are going into entrepreneurship. But I would say the average would be kind of in the where you would expect it to be, kind of in mid-career folks, mid-seniority, who are aspiring to executive seniority, and then we get the executives too. We have a good representation of government SESs, of private sector executive level or even C-level individuals who come to our courses that are trying to see if they can learn new angles on the business of promoting and managing corporate strategy. And that comes from government, that comes from private sector, it comes from nonprofit. And so good representation, I would say, from those various descriptions, with the center, let's say the center of gravity being mid-career.
Okay, so the next question, what is the typical percentage of government to commercial industry students?
That's a great question too. So again, I'm speaking anecdotally because I don't have data, so I'm gonna put that asterisk there. I like to tell my students, and I usually get a giggle out of them, that Washington, D.C., like many cities, is a company town. So we have a healthy representation from the U.S. federal government. But we also have international students coming from all the sectors and all the industries as well. We have a great representation from various countries throughout the world, and it kind of helps enhance that global perspective that I was talking about in one of the earlier slides. But again, we have a wide range of individuals that are engaging in our certificate, and hopefully that kind of gives gives a little bit of perspective in that regard.
And there was a part two to this question. I apologize. Ultimately, are there usually government contractors and or employees in this course?
Yes, and so let me kind of zoom in a little bit more sharply on that. So, because I recall the question was asking about a percentage. So I would say, it's about, a third government, and it varies from semester to semester, about a third nonprofit and about a third private sector, so that we're getting kind of equal representations from the sectors. If there's, if there's a slight imbalance, if there is an imbalance, maybe it's slight going in the direction of government, because DC is a government town, and of course that's our background as well. Gary and I, my co-instructor, both have strong federal government experience. That's where we cut our teeth, so to speak. And so our federal government students really appreciate us having that background. But really, we have had a good mix, is the way I would put it, a good mix of students from the various sectors. But as you would expect, the U.S. federal government is well represented. And so hopefully that provides, a little bit of a picture. And again, at all levels. So we'll have folks in the beginning of their career, they're trying to learn more because they want to move up the ladder. Mid-career, they're kind of bolstering the skills. And then late career and high-level executives, senior people that know a lot of this stuff because they've been around, but they want a different perspective. They want a fresh perspective. They want to test some ideas, and they want to hear from others and where they're at from the different organizations that they come from.
Thank you. And this next question, I think it was good for everyone to hear the answer to this. Is it possible for students to get a hard copy of all materials as they would to receive in person? Eh,
All right, well, that's an administrative question, but I can take it if you'd like.
Oh no, I know that all of the programs use the 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 learning the management system Canvas to post materials. Um, Other universities may still use Blackboard, but we use Canvas. That would be your way of getting all of your course materials. There isn't like a hard copy that's actually sent to anyone, but you'll be able to, access your materials through Canvas. You can download, read, and do things things of your nature for that. But there aren't, I don't, you won't get like a hard copy that's like passed into a classroom, sent to you. No, everything will be posted to Canvas. And if you're familiar with Blackboard, Canvas is just the same kind of component as Blackboard. Do you
Yes,
have
and
anything to
and
add,
so
Ron?
you and so
Okay.
you can print out from there too. You can print out whatever materials, some students are comfortable with that. And so you just hit the print button, and then whatever you want to print, stick it in a binder, bring it to class. We still have students that like to do that. That having been said, everything can be accommodated right off your laptop. We do strongly recommend that you bring, something that connects to the internet to class, because everything is, at least in its initial state, electronic. One other thing, I realized when the question was asked about percentages of attendees, just one other thing I wanted to address. I also remember one component of the question was contractors versus government personnel. And the answer to that is good mix of that too. So we have folks that are coming from the large and small contractors that support the federal government. And then we also have the government folks that come in as well, the actual civil service and senior executive service. But then also folks from private industry, from Boeing, from various corporate, Lockheed Martin, Booz Allen, all the big names that you can imagine are coming in, and some of them are in the commercial sector, some of them are supporting the government, and also entrepreneurs, small business, and so a good mix of both consultants and practitioners and managers and leaders. So also wanted to mention that as well.
Thanks. The next question, how soon are the Rita Heads posted before class begins?
Yes. So as I was mentioning earlier, what we try to do with that is at a minimum post a week in advance. I try to see if I can expand on that, to give you even more time than that. And so I will say this: you'll have something to look at even before that week, because we'll open up the Canvas site, we'll publish it. And then the only thing that might be missing is a few of the readings, the Harvard case package. There'll be a few readings in there that you'll have to do last. And the reason we delay on that is because Georgetown is actually doing something nice. They're paying for your all your materials. You're not buying books for this course, which is great. Not every course does this, but ours is all provided for you. And one of the things that we're providing is the Harvard case materials. So what Georgetown, because they have to pay for the licenses, they like to get a head count of everybody, and so they'll wait until 1 week to get a sense of what the final head count is, and then they'll order the licenses for the Harvard cases. But you'll have all the other things to review on Canvas, including slides, and any other readings and materials, videos to watch that we'll be showing in class. So you'll be able to start long before that. I try actually to get something open about 3 weeks in advance at a minimum, but everything will be posted in a minimum by 1 week. And by posted, I mean you'll have a link to the Harvard cases that'll be pushed to you by email. And then there'll also be a link clearly marked and indicated where it's located in Canvas as well. So hopefully that answers that. We do have late registrations too sometimes, and so we do have to account for that. But for those that are the early birds and want to do their Rita Heads, we recognize that everybody's busy, and so we try and open that up. Start to open it up, I would say, at least 3 weeks in advance, so you have plenty of time to read.
Great, thank you. The next question, do students get to bring your own examples, questions for their own from their own workplace to the exercises, capstones, or do they deal with predetermined scenarios, or is it a combination?
A very thoughtful question. So actually what we have been doing is we've been giving you a very long recommended list to down select from as groups. But it was about 3 semesters ago that we had a student that kind of lobbied his group to do, he's an entrepreneur. And so he lobbied his group to do his own company as one of the exercises, and actually to do it, as I recall, as the capstone exercise. And we said, sure, go for it, as long as everybody's okay with it. And they were. And we usually have a pretty good collegial environment in which we work in. And so if a student proposes that, I would imagine it will be accepted. And so as a proposal by your team members, and they have an advantage because they realize that they've got someone who really knows the organization that's being worked on. And so they quickly realize the reason why they're so accepting of that, not just because they're generally nice people, because they realize, oh, we've got a ringer. We've got someone who really knows this organization from inside and out. And so that really helps them to kind of keep their focus in the exercises and in the capstone. So it is a combination of both. Choosing your own organization as, or someone's own organization as what's going to be worked on in the exercise is the exception, but it is possible.
Great. Next question. Does the majority of the classes coursework focus on strategic planning, or is it more focused on corporate strategy development, or both?
So heavily on both of those topics, but it's a great chance to point out that strategic management is more than even those. And so if you recall, I talked about the cycle of strategic management, and it takes you through, yes, development of a strategy, and then putting it together, articulating it in the form of a strategic plan. But then you move on to execution, and then you move on to performance monitoring. And so we are kind of top heavy is the way I like to put it. We do spend a little more time on the front end of that cycle, but we hit all of those topics. And so we'll teach you what, the very basic elements of putting together a strategy, including doing a proper environmental scan, seeing what's out there, what your organization is up against, doing your due diligence in terms of analyzing your stakeholders, understanding what your mission and vision are, understanding what your values are, and then using that, particularly with the vision, seeing where you want to move in the future, to kind of flesh out, put some flesh on the bone, so to speak, and get something that is a meaningful strategy that can be planned out and articulated practically for all of your stakeholders. And then talk about, okay, how do we avoid that strategy just being paper collecting dust on a shelf, or electrons sitting in a computer that never gets accessed and nobody ever looks at, but being something that the organization actually uses as their blueprint for success. And then being able to determine through the performance monitoring, both real time as you're moving through execution, and then at the end of the cycle, saying to yourself, did we succeed? Did we meet our goals or not? And how do we know it? And how do we demonstrate that to our stakeholders? And so we're going to give you a full view of what strategic management looks like, with, yes, most of our time spent on the front end, which is the development of the strategy, the formulation of the strategy, the planning to the strategy, and then mapping out its execution. We probably be spending a little bit less time on the execution itself, which is getting into some of the program management issues, but we will be talking about those. We'll be addressing those in class. We just won't be spending as much time. So hopefully that kind of gives you a flavor of the balance.
Great. Next question. In your experience as an hiring manager, does a certificate have value as compared to a degree program with regards to a competitive edge?
Right. And so many years I've been doing this, and I can tell you that we're moving in a direction in higher education. And that direction is specialization. And specialization is provided by the certificate approach, where people can produce a more tailored educational resume, so to speak, by piecing together the specific skills that they want to demonstrate to an employer. At the same time, I don't think the more conventional approach to education has disappeared either. So it's kind of a both and proposition, not an either or. So you've got people that understand the value of let's say, postgraduate education, but then supplement that with a certificate approach so that they're able to demonstrate to either prospective or current employers that they're getting the specialized skills that those employers value. And so that's a general trend. And then that's my experience as well, where people have come back to me. We've got some good, testimonials that have indicated they've been able to use very well what we've taught them, but also to use it to enhance their credentials and to move in the career directions that they want to move in. The other side of that is Georgetown has a great name that's worth something. There are many institutions that provide great educations, but there is also such a thing as branding. And Georgetown is a prominent recognized world leader in higher education, and I will just say that doesn't hurt, okay, to have something from Georgetown.
Thank you. And then next question, do you incorporate learnings from other institutions? Example, Porter's 5 forces.
Yes. So glad you asked that. We do discuss Porter's 5 forces in class. We're big believers in it as a tool for part of the environmental scanning process. And that actually kind of prompts me to mention that what we actually do is, we bring in, that's the theoretical, right? So Michael Porter is one of the great strategic management gurus from Harvard University, Harvard Business School. But what we're also very conscious that this is a professional learning situation where applications are so important. And so we also wear a practitioner hat. And so as instructors, we also have a practice. And so we bring our own practice approach, and we've actually taken Michael Porter's 5 forces, and we have adapted it to an approach that we use that's called 5 forces plus, that we use with our students and our clients. And so that was kind of a great tee up for me to say that we're definitely bringing not just theory to you, but we're also bringing practice and applications, and students really appreciate that. So thanks for asking that question. It's a great question.
And the last question we have is, what are the credentials of the instructors?
So we've been around a very long time. And so long experience and also some pretty solid academics too. I have a doctorate in public administration myself. I concentrated in training and development, organizational training and development, and also performance measurement and evaluation. Very relevant fields of study to strategic management. I started in the business school as an undergrad, and so I have that perspective too. Both my co-instructor and I have worked in private sector and federal public sector as well. My co-instructor was the strategic planner for NASA. And so we have a few NASA examples and case studies. He was also the deputy assistant secretary for planning and evaluation. I actually went to work for him many years ago, and that's how I met him, working in the policy and planning office of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And so I did program evaluation, performance measurement, and program management, business process reengineering, all in support of the Office of Planning, which produced the strategic plan for the Department of Veterans Affairs. And so I worked closely shoulder to shoulder with the planning people. I learned how strategic planning works and how all of those functions, believe it or not, contribute directly to strategic management, strategic planning, and the development of strategy and the execution of strategy at a major planning office for U.S. federal agency. I've also been a consultant, and that's what we're doing right now. We're both retired, and we support clients, nonprofit sector, government sector, private sector, in helping them manage strategically, how design their strategy maps, and build their strategic plans. And so Gary and I are both doing that now for a set of clients. We're also doing professional education for them as well, and so teaching various client organizations how to do strategic management. And so that's us. There's probably a lot more. As I said, we've been around a few years, and so we've got pretty thick resumes, but I think those are the highlights.
Thank you. And that was our last question. So with that, I'm going to say thank you, John, for this great presentation and all the amazing information that you shared and the questions that you answered. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I hope the information that you received has helped you make a decision, or a sound decision, on whether or not the strategic management certificate is appropriate for you. I want to say that Georgetown University actually wants to wish you and your families well. We hope that everyone is safe and everyone is happy. And we hope that you have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your week. And again, thank you for attending our webinar. And we hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much.
And thank you all.